Wes and Dustin, two average guys slinging dough in Columbia, Missouri. They had dreams, sure, who doesn't? They wanted to make the best pizza in town, maybe even open a second location someday. But for now, their lives revolved around the pizzeria. But for now, it was pizza by day, beer by night. Life was simple, predictable, safe. They'd finish their shifts, head to the local bar, and unwind with a couple of cold ones. It was a routine they cherished, a rhythm they had grown accustomed to. Little did they know, fate had other plans. Plans that would shatter their routine and thrust them into a world they never imagined. Plans that began with a scream that would echo in their minds for days to come.
It was a Friday night, the air thick with the smell of oregano and pepperoni. Closing time, the end of another busy week. We were tired but satisfied, knowing we had served our customers well. I was counting the till, making sure everything balanced out. It was a routine task, something I did every night without much thought. And I was mopping the floor, the rhythmic swish of the mop almost meditative. We were both lost in our own thoughts, thinking about the weekend ahead. Suddenly, a woman's scream sliced through the night. It was so piercing, so unexpected that we both froze. It wasn't a playful scream. It wasn't the kind of scream you hear at a party or a concert. This was different. This was fear, raw and primal. The kind of fear that makes your blood run cold and your heart race.
They rushed outside, their minds racing with questions. What was happening? Who was in trouble? Heartbeats pounding in their chests, they followed the sound of the scream. Every second felt like an eternity. A woman was being dragged into an alley, her attacker a hulking shadow against the brick wall. Adrenaline surged. Fight or flight. They knew they had to act, but fear gripped them. In that split second, their ordinary lives took a sharp turn into the unknown. They exchanged a glance, a silent agreement passing between them. They couldn't just stand by and do nothing. They had to help, no matter the cost. Fear warred with a sense of duty. They hesitated, their hearts pounding in their chests. The night had started so innocently, just a casual outing with friends, but now they found themselves at a crossroads. The air was thick with tension, and every second felt like an eternity. Who were they to play hero? Doubts gnawed at their minds. They were just ordinary people, not trained to handle such situations. The weight of the decision pressed down on them, making it hard to breathe. Yet, something inside them refused to let them walk away. But the woman's desperate cries spurred them forward. Her voice, filled with terror and pleading, cut through their hesitation like a knife. They couldn't ignore it. They couldn't turn their backs on someone in need. The decision was made in an instant, and they moved as one. They charged into the alleyway, the stench of stale beer and fear hitting them like a wall. The darkness seemed to close in around them, but they pressed on, driven by a newfound resolve. The alley was a maze of shadows and echoes, each step taking them deeper into the unknown.
"Help, please, somebody help me." Her voice was a beacon in the darkness, guiding them towards her. The urgency in her tone left no room for doubt. They had to act, and they had to act now.
The attacker, a man built like a linebacker, snarled. His presence was imposing, a wall of muscle and menace. He radiated danger, and for a moment they felt a flicker of fear, but they couldn't back down now. They had come too far. He shoved the woman aside and turned towards them, eyes blazing with fury. The confrontation was inevitable. There was no turning back. The air crackled with tension as they faced off against the man, their hearts racing.
Fueled by adrenaline, I threw the first punch. It was a wild, desperate swing, but it carried all the force of my fear and determination. In that moment, I wasn't thinking. I was just reacting, driven by the need to protect. It connected with the man's jaw, a satisfying crack echoing in the night. The impact jolted through my arm, a mix of pain and triumph. For a split second, everything seemed to freeze, the world holding its breath.
The man stumbled back, surprised. He hadn't expected resistance. His confidence wavered, and in that moment they saw a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could turn the tide.
I landed a kick to the man's gut. The force of the blow doubled him over, and he let out a grunt of pain. It was a small victory, but it fueled their determination. They could do this. They had to do this. The attacker, outnumbered and outmatched, chose retreat over battle. His bravado crumbled, replaced by a primal instinct to flee. He turned and ran, his footsteps echoing in the narrow alley. He scrambled to his feet and disappeared into the labyrinth of alleys. The darkness swallowed him, and just like that, the immediate danger was gone. But the night was far from over.
They helped the woman up, their hands trembling with adrenaline. She was shaken but alive. Relief washed over them, but it was tinged with the realization that this was just the beginning. Her eyes wide with fear and gratitude. She clung to them, her voice barely a whisper as she tried to thank them, but there was no time for gratitude. They needed answers.
My name is Maya. Her voice was shaky, but there was a strength beneath the fear. She was more than just a victim. She had a story, and they needed to hear it. I work for a man. A dangerous man who won't be happy about this interruption. Her words sent a chill down their spines. This wasn't just a random attack. They had stumbled into something much bigger and much more dangerous.
Wes and Dustin had stumbled headfirst into a world they never knew existed. A world where shadows hid secrets and danger lurked around every corner. They exchanged a glance, the weight of their new reality settling in. A world of shadows and secrets. The night had changed them, and there was no going back. They had taken the first step into a new, uncertain future, and they would have to face whatever came next together. Maya was a prostitute. She had been on the streets for years, surviving day by day, night by night. Her life was a constant struggle, a never-ending battle against the darkness that threatened to consume her. She had seen things, done things that would haunt her forever, but she had no choice. It was either that or starve. Her pimp, a man known only as Silas, wasn't someone you crossed. He was a shadowy figure, always lurking in the dark corners of the city. His presence was like a dark cloud, always hanging over her. Silas was ruthless, a man who thrived on fear and control. He had a network of girls, all under his thumb, all too scared to defy him. Fear clung to Maya like a shroud. It was her constant companion, a silent whisper in the back of her mind. She feared for her life, for her safety. Every day was a gamble, every night a test of her endurance. But now there was something more. A new fear had taken root in her heart. Fear for herself, and now fear for Wes and Dustin. They were her friends, her only allies in this cruel world. They had always been there for her, offering a helping hand when she needed it the most. But now they were in danger too. Silas had found out about their friendship, and he didn't like it. He saw it as a threat, a challenge to his authority. They couldn't leave her at the mercy of Silas. They knew what he was capable of, the lengths he would go to maintain his control. They had seen the bruises, the scars, the broken spirits of the girls under his rule. They couldn't let that happen to Maya. They had to do something, anything, to protect her. But what could they do? They were just ordinary people, pizza workers trying to make a living. They didn't have the power, the resources, to take on someone like Silas. The odds were stacked against them, the risks too high. But they couldn't just stand by and do nothing. They had to find a way, no matter how impossible it seemed.
We offered her refuge in the pizzeria for the night. It wasn't much, but it was the best we could do. We gave her a place to sleep, a moment of peace in her chaotic life. We hoped it would be enough, that it would give her the strength to keep going.
Over cold pizza and even colder fear, they sat together, trying to come up with a plan. The pizzeria was their sanctuary, a place where they could think, strategize, without the constant threat of Silas looming over them. But even here the fear was palpable, a cold chill that seeped into their bones. Maya revealed the extent of Silas's operation. It was bigger than they had imagined, a sprawling network of exploitation and control. Silas had his fingers in everything, from drugs to human trafficking. He was a kingpin, a master manipulator who used fear as his weapon. He controlled a network of girls, exploiting them for his own profit. They were his pawns, his tools, used and discarded at his whim. The more they learned, the more they realized the true extent of his power. It was terrifying, overwhelming, but it also fueled their determination. They couldn't let him continue. They had to stop him, no matter the cost. An idea began to form in Wes's mind. A dangerous, audacious idea. It was risky, almost suicidal, but it was their only chance. They had to take the fight to Silas, to challenge him on his own turf. It was a gamble, a high-stakes game that could cost them everything, but they had no other choice.
I was hesitant, ever the cautious one. I knew the risks, the dangers, but I also knew that we couldn't stand by and do nothing. We had to act, to take a stand. It was a leap of faith, a step into the unknown, but it was a risk we had to take. But the allure of quick money, the chance to be more than just pizza guys, proved too tempting to resist. It was a chance to make a difference, to be heroes in a world that desperately needed them. The money was just a bonus, a means to an end. The real reward was the chance to take down Silas, to free the girls under his control.
They made a decision that night, a pact that would change their lives forever. It was a moment of clarity, a shared resolve to do whatever it took to bring Silas down. They knew the risks, the dangers, but they also knew that they couldn't turn back. They were in this together, for better or worse, a pact sealed with a handshake and a shared bottle of cheap whiskey. It was a symbol of their commitment, their determination. They were in this together, bound by a common goal. They would take down Silas no matter the cost. They would take over Silas's operation. It was a bold move, a dangerous gamble, but it was their only chance. They had to take control, to wrest the power from Silas's hands. It was a fight for survival, a battle for control. They were ready, determined to see it through to the end. They would become the kings of the underworld. It was a lofty goal, a dream that seemed almost impossible. But they were determined, driven by a shared purpose. They would rise to the top, take control of the city. It was their destiny, their fate. They just didn't know the price they would pay for their ambition, the cost of their dreams, their desires. It was a high price, one that would test their resolve, their strength. But they were ready, willing to pay whatever it took. They were in this together, bound by a common goal. They would see it through to the end, no matter the cost. Section 4. The Price of Power. The transition was surprisingly smooth. Silas, caught off guard and outmaneuvered, disappeared into the night. Fear, it seemed, was a powerful motivator.
The girls, sensing a shift in power, readily accepted us as their new protectors.
Money flowed, their lives changed overnight. The dingy apartment was replaced with a penthouse suite. The beat-up truck was traded for a sleek sports car.
We were living the high life, our pockets lined with dirty money and our egos inflated by newfound power.
But with power came paranoia. The thrill of their early victories was replaced by a gnawing anxiety. They were in over their heads, swimming with sharks, and they knew it. Section 5. Snakes in the garden. Their success didn't go unnoticed. Rivals, sensing weakness in their inexperience, began to circle. The most dangerous of these was a man they only knew as Viper.
Viper was old school, a predator who ruled through fear and intimidation. He saw Wes and Dustin as usurpers, a threat to his territory and his ego. He wanted what they had, and he wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty to take it.
The battle lines were drawn. Wes, ever the strategist, knew they couldn't win in a straight fight. They had to use their wits, their one advantage over Viper's brute force. Section 6. The Art of War. Wes devised a plan, a dangerous gamble that could either solidify their position or destroy them completely. They would use Viper's greed against him, lure him into a trap of his own making.
We leaked information about a large shipment of cash, money we were supposedly moving to a new location. The bait was too tempting for Viper to resist.
He took the bait, hook, line, and sinker. What Viper didn't know was that Wes and Dustin had tipped off the police.
The raid was swift and brutal. Viper's men were rounded up, his operation crippled. Viper himself was caught red-handed, the incriminating cash stacked in his escape vehicle.
They had won, for now. But their victory came at a cost. Their actions had consequences, consequences that were about to come knocking.